isn't it fascinating? I think it's fascinating reading Jeremiah. This is just terribly interesting to me. Jeremiah was one of those prophets during the time leading up to and during the Babylonian captivity. And one of my professors at the Methodist Seminary in Ohio, says that the writings of Jeremiah are riddled with PTSD. That Jeremiah and the people of Judah were traumatized by the destruction of Jerusalem and their captivity at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. If you read through the book of Jeremiah and Lamentations, you may be persuaded by that professor is correct. The whole nation of Judah was traumatized as these invaders came into their land and turned everything upside down, uprooting them and moving them to strange new territory. Throughout Jeremiah, however, there are messages of hope, one of which is our reading this morning. God often asks his prophets to not so much speak prophetically, but to act prophetically. And in today's reading, Jeremiah is instructed to go by land, even though they're about to be invaded. By land, take the deeds and place the deeds in a sealed, airtight jar. This is an action of hope. Jeremiah now has the hope that even though his land has been snatched away by invaders, that one day it will be returned to him. As we celebrate Native American Awareness Sunday, I can't think of a better reading because, like it or not, our Native American sisters and brothers have been living through 500 years of their own Babylonian captivity. The trauma that the people of Judah experienced is the trauma that our Native sisters and brothers still experience. If you talk to a Native person, you'll often hear of the connection to the land, to belonging to a particular spot. My Choctaw ancestors have a story of how they came to the part of Mississippi they're living in now. They came from the west, somewhere in the west, and they had two brothers who led them. And each day, at the end of the day, they would come to a stopping place. They had a staff, and they'd plant the staff in the ground. And in the morning, the staff would be leaning one way or another, and they would follow in that direction until they came to that spot where in the morning they woke up and the staff was standing straight up in the air. And they took that to mean that's where we will stay. And that was around Philadelphia, Mississippi, where the Choctaw Nation is now. However, President Jackson, through the Indian Removal Act, had this little thing called the Trail of Tears. Has anyone heard of the Trail of Tears? The Choctaw were removed from their ancestral lands and moved to the Oklahoma Indian territories. But if you were to talk to those elders today living in Oklahoma, I think you would hear of a longing for their native land. I was blessed to attend a powwow in Columbus, Georgia, 25 years ago now, where the Yuchi elders were invited back to their original land for the first time. You can see the joy they felt, even though they had never seen this place before. The joy they felt being where their ancestors had been planted by the Creator. There were many trails of tears, not just the one from the southeast. I believe the Ho-Chunk were relocated from Wisconsin. The Oneida were moved to Wisconsin from their homes in New York. And of course, they brought with them, as I told our young folks, they brought with them the Methodist Church. The first Methodist church in the Wisconsin Territory is on what is now Oneida Reservation. And there's been a presence with the Oneida since they arrived here in 1820, a presence of the Methodist Church with the Oneida. So how many Methodist churches, Native American Methodist churches, are there in Wisconsin? Pop quiz, does anybody know? 2. You want to guess where they are? One, Oneida. The other is on the Bad River Reservation on Lake Superior. It was the first Native American church in that area. So we have these two churches. I served the Native American ministry here in Milwaukee for 10 years. And while I served there, I experienced firsthand historic trauma that many Native people carry within them. but also experienced God's grace working in their community. I experienced God's providence in a new way as our needs were met almost miraculously. We were a mission church in the sense that we were dependent on the kindness of strangers. But we became a missional church. We became a church providing mission to other people because through God's grace, we suddenly had this Korean refugee community from Burma worshiping with us. And it was a beautiful time in our ministry where we started to provide ministry. We started to do mission to these Korean people. We started making Easter baskets for the kids. And it was just a wonderful time of sharing potlucks together. It was a new era for us as we learned how to be the mission senders rather than mission receivers. And I learned then that there's something called redemptive analogies. Has anyone ever read a book, The Peace Child? I'd recommend this to you if you like mission. It talks about a Bible translator in Papua New Guinea who had the hardest time translating the gospel into a way that people would understand. And finally he learned that they were cannibals. But they would raid a village and they'd take a child and bring that child back. The child would become a leader. The child became the bridge between the two different fighting tribes. And through the peace child, he was able to draw an analogy to Christ. Working with the Korean, I discovered they had a redemptive analogy. They had the white elephant. And I know we have white elephant sales, right? But we don't. That's not what they're talking about. I said to an elder in the community, "What does the white elephant mean to you?" And she said, "Well, when the white elephant returns, we get our land back, we're made whole, and we are ushered into a new way of being." And one of the Native American elders listening in said, "Oh, we have the white buffalo." And the lady perked up. She said, "Well, what does that mean to you?" And she said, "Well, when the white buffalo comes, our land's returned to us, we're brought into wholeness, and we are ushered into a new way of being." Isn't that interesting? White elephant from Asia, a white buffalo from North America. And don't we also look forward to the day when the Lamb of God returns, that we are restored in our own way? God is wonderful in the way God reveals himself to all peoples, regardless of where they are. So we look forward to the white buffalo, lamb returning to us, bring us into the new Jerusalem. The Native American ministry was closed as members either died or moved back to their reservations, where there were often better services. But that's the real reason was financial. The conference decided that they couldn't support us anymore. Was there suddenly no longer a need for a Native American ministry in Milwaukee? Absolutely not. But we had been measured by the same metrics as a suburban white church, and we were set up to fail. When the missional focus within the conference changed, the Native American churches were the first to see their budgets cut. No, there's still a need, even today. But we were resource poor and couldn't afford to keep the doors open long enough to reimagine what that ministry might look like. You see, the Native American congregations are really a lot like Lazarus in our reading today. They're many times so impoverished, barely able to keep their lights on. And while the other churches are thriving, or at least maintaining the status quo, the Native American churches in Wisconsin and throughout the Midwest struggle to keep their ministries open. And that's why this day, Native American Awareness Sunday, is so important. And I can vouch for the importance of it. You give and you wonder, does this money actually do any good? I can tell you it does, because half the money collected goes to support Native American pastors across the community of the nation. Pastors like my friend Norman, who's Navajo, or pastors like my friend Charlie, who's a native Alaskan, who's doing incredible, extraordinary work in Alaska and beyond. Charlie not only reaches out to the Native American people in his community, In the summertime, he goes out to the river where gold miners are still working. They set up tents around the river and gold. And Charlie says, I go out there and take them a hot lunch 2 or 3 times a week. And some of them have started coming to church. He says there's one guy who's been there year after year. He comes back. And when they pass the collection plate around, the guy puts a gold nugget or a little vial of gold dust into the collection plate. How do you like to count that, Carl? How do you calculate that? But Charlie's doing real ministry, and he's doing it because he was able to go through the Native American course of study, funded partly by the offerings that you'll give today. Native people throughout the ministries around the country are doing innovative things like language classes for the Yuchi in Oklahoma, where they were reduced to 5 people speaking their language. 5 people left. And the pastor there said, let's as a church, start a language class. And now the kids are learning their language, their first language. And that's funded through you. The other half of the money given today goes to support our Native congregations in Wisconsin. And I can tell you how important that money is. I know the Bad River congregation depends on the money to get through the winter. So when you give, be mindful that you are actually giving to transform people on reservations around the country. We can be like the rich man in our reading from Luke and ignore the plight of our churches, native churches, and slowly watch them die out, or we can be of assistance, finding ways to partner with our native brothers and sisters. Partnering is not just giving, it's also receiving. It's finding mutuality. Partnering means walking together, sharing meals together, finding out real needs and the gifts that can be offered to us. Well, back to Jeremiah. Wasn't it interesting? Did you find this interesting? Jeremiah buys this land, he has the deeds written, and God tells him to put it in a clay jar and seal it up. Why did he do that? Couldn't he have taken it to the first church of Jerusalem and put it in a safety deposit box? Why a clay jar? That was the safest way to keep it, preserve it. You remember the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? They were preserved in clay jars. I went to a meeting with Inona Ledoux. She's an Ojibwe activist, and she's very involved in seed preservation. She was telling us about a certain kind of corn that had gone out of existence, it had died out. And then somebody, I think in Oneida, found this little clay ball that was over 100 years old. And when they opened it up, it was the seed from that corn that had disappeared. And that seed was still viable after 100 years. They planted it and it came up. It's bearing fruit today. This seed has been reclaimed. This corn has been reclaimed. You see, there's life too in our native churches. Our Native American churches are waiting to be planted, to be nourished, to be cultivated. In Jeremiah's day, the children of the Babylonian captivity were eventually brought home. And I'm happy to say that even today, our Methodist church is giving land back to native peoples. Most recently, 3 acres of land in a church building has been given to the Wyandotte Mission Church, to the Wyandotte people. And it's been a wonderful time as the native folks have got their land back. So today I appeal to you as you give your offering to be generous for our native people. I pray that we in the Wisconsin Annual Conference find ways to support our Native American brothers and